Great. Well, I think we're all ready to commence. I'd like to welcome members and guests to the Institute for our meeting today. Today we're very fortunate to have Dr. Bhuvan Untitled, who is going to speak to us today about user requirements. Dr. Untitled is the National Director for the Australian Institute of Business Analysts. He's responsible for their competency standards and has over 20 years experience in IT, with particular expertise in agile, business analysis and requirements modelling. He's worked in various industries including banking, insurance, government and telecommunications. He's a prolific and well-published author, particularly on agile, and we look forward to his new book coming up perhaps in the next 6 months. And he's also an associate professor at the University of Western Sydney. So I'd like us all to welcome Dr.
How much time I have? Good morning and welcome. And thank you, Clinton, for a very nice introduction. I'm going to record. I have recorded the introduction, so I can play it in front of my wife and say, look, what a wonderful man you're married to. He's done so many things, you know. It doesn't work though. In the hour that is given to me, my plan is to highlight to you a crucial part of software development lifecycle that has probably nothing to do with software per se. And over our cup of coffee, we were chatting, you know, what's this agile stuff, and you know, why the whole world is you know, running behind agile. IT is 60 years old. So it's a very young profession. And every week I go to University of Western Sydney, and as an adjunct I'm, you know, visiting faculty. I don't have an office there, and I'm presenting professional development to the final year students. I'm saying, you know, you are the representatives of IT profession. And so we start with what is a profession and so on. And your profession comes first. Accounting has been around for a few millennia. So for the last 60 years that IT is trying to become a profession, it has tried to come up with standards, processes, methods, frameworks, project management approaches, heaps of things. You have probably heard of this thing called waterfall lifecycle. Analyze, design, code, and test. 4 major phases. As a young COBOL programmer in a Tata company in India, where I come from, in 1982, my boss told me, Bhuvan, don't worry about the user. You simply write the program. You code and let the user figure out how to use your code. I came to Australia in 1986, and ever since I've been here, so the kids are born, brought up here and so on, which is a bit of a problem when Australia plays India in cricket. But we'll not go into those gory details of a test series that never happened for people like me, but actually happened for my son. And from 86 I look up to 2012, and the effort that IT is making, SDLCs, waterfall based, then Barry Beam came up with his spiral model for software development. Brian Henderson Sellers at UTS published a fountain model of of development, you know, requirements going up and coming down and so on. And now we have this agile paradigm for software development. And this agile paradigm is saying that we learned from construction and we learned from manufacturing. We, the humanity, keeps learning from the knowledge we already have. But it so happens that this new IT profession, new 60 years old, has a different paradigm to construction and manufacturing. For example, if I have to build this building, I will start with the ground floor. Very logical. It so happens that more than half the IT projects start with the penthouse first, and then bring the bulldozers and start digging the foundation. That's the IT paradigm. So what I'm sharing with you is one very crucial phase, if you like, within IT software development that deals much less with coding and much more with the users. And my boss, in fact, migrated here as well. He used to work in St. George, and he and I keep having this chat, On the back of a cigarette case, we used to write specifications, And now we have formalized our relationships with the user. We have put a standard around it. We have got CASE tools. CASE, by the way, stands for Computer Aided Software Engineering. We've got tools that help us understand what the user wants. We in IT, in 1982, when I was coding, when I was writing my first COBOL program, 90% plus activities in an IT shop were coding, and the remaining 5% was putting entries on a data sheet, which would be sent to punch card operators who would punch it, and we had a massive 3.5-inch floppy disk which could carry, oh my god, 320 kilobytes. So now the actual coding that happens in an IT shop in Westpac or in AMP or in Qantas or in Westmead Hospital, 40% is the benchmark, and even less. And the rest of the 60% and more gets divided into some crucial phases, crucial activities, one of which is requirements modeling. And it's not just modeling. There are a few terms around requirements: capturing, gathering, engineering, modeling, testing, all as suffix to requirements. So requirements management is the domain in which all these interesting things are happening. And guess what? As accountants, as users of software systems, you are happy. I mean, all of you here are also happy, but the accountants overall are happy, and the business is happy. Ram's Home Loans super user is happy because someone has asked him or her, what do you want from this system? And what they answered, we put in this process. So I'm going to highlight to you some of the aspects. This is in case Clinton missed out on introducing me, and in case you have a job for me. Aldo is not here, so yeah. So yeah, this is the art of practicing agile. This is a Taylor and Francis book. This number keeps changing. It was 2010, then it became 2011, now it's 2012. But today I'm on the last chapter. But this is what I think we were chatting, weren't we, about agile. But that actually is another topic. So if you enjoy my Indo-Australian accent, and if you have some time, We can come back in a month or two and talk only about Agile. But that's a different topic, related but different to business analysis. This is one of my proud positions. I became a fellow about 2003 or so, and there are increasingly very few places where people can say, Bhuvan, he's just a baby. I just turned 50, like I'm more than 50. But that's the fellowship, the ring of the fellows is a fairly limited group. So I just get called a baby over there. I'm going to explain or chat or share with you how we manage requirements, how the whole process of requirements management is. Then I will highlight to you what we mean by requirements, because that is also a vast domain in itself. Because requirements can be anything. A Rams home loan user, I give that example because I did some work there, says application for home loan is the process. I want your system, Bhuvan, to help me automate the application process. That's one part of the requirement. But then as a good requirements modeler, I'm going to ask a lot of questions. Who are the people who are going to apply? Who are the managers, the decision makers, the people who have put business rules together? Who are they within your company, our company? And then guess what? I'm going to ask another important question. I'm going to ask, how many people you expect will apply between 12 and 2 on 3rd of November, random date? These are requirements. And my profession, business analysts, are supposed to be professionals in capturing, gathering, modeling, engineering, testing requirements. So I'm going to explain that a little bit more as we progress. And this, I don't plan to take you through, too many details of that, but I'll show you examples. And then, and if you are more interested, I'm available. You have my email and phone number, and this is sort of my fun, my passion. So very happy to share that with you. So any comments on why requirements modeling? Your thoughts, your views, your pain points in the past?
I guess the reason is sort of obvious, isn't it? That so that it's relevant to the user.
It is, and the extension of that thought is that the users may not know what they want from the system. Almost like a love affair, You don't know what you want from an affair. It's getting recorded. Oh no. Let me explain slightly more formally. Okay. These are some statistics, and you are all much better in statistics than I will ever be. So I will take it with a pinch of salt or two. But what it is saying is, so lack of business analysis. So almost half the projects seem to fail, not because someone selected Java over C++, not because someone selected Oracle over SQL Server, but because someone failed to figure out what the business wanted. I bring in $10 million worth of SAP or $12 million worth of PeopleSoft, ERP solutions, and I configure and spend a year implementing it. And at the end of that, my business is saying, this is not what I wanted. That is the core reason for failure. And project management also was a reason and is still a reason, but it is much better now, because we have got PMBOK, Project Management Book of Knowledge. We have got Prince2 as a standardized project management methodology. We have people who are certified as project managers. Probably some of you are. We can ask, I want a Prince 2 certified project manager, and that sentence is good enough on seek.com or wherever. Not so with business analysis, not at this stage anyway. We've got my institute is there, AIBA, IIBA is there, SFIA, Skills Framework for Information Age, that has put together a framework, a subset of which applies to business analysis, but it is still nowhere near the maturity of project management. Earlier, there have been 4 areas of business, general business knowledge, specialist or core expertise, banking. This is how to run a business. This is how to run banking. This is HR, and this is leadership. And these 4 have been considered. There is a reference somewhere on these 4 pillars of running a business. And we are saying that actually critical thinking, business analysis and critical thinking upfront in any initiative is going to play a major role in the success of a business. So our jingle on my card that I carry is professionalizing business analysis. So what project management was in 1995, business analysis is now about 15 years gap, but it can become shorter, and business analysis can become a profession in 5 to 10 years. But look at universities, UWS and UTS and New South Wales, MBA stands for Master Business Administration, not business analysis. The universities are offering tidbits, a little course here or a little module within IT software processes or somewhere called business analysis or requirements modeling, which is what we are talking. It's not a full-on profession, but you can get management degrees. So our aim, if you like, our aspiration is to bring business analysis to a level where it is considered as a career, as a profession in its own right. So in terms of the place where a BA works, this may look a bit busy, so excuse me for that, but there are four spaces here. One is my business space, where the user sits, the teller in a bank or the loans officer in a home loan company or any user, end user. So he or she over here is my business space. Then I come to my problem space. I call it problem space, where I'm going to define the problem. So this is where the business analyst tries to understand business needs and business processes and flow charts and everything that goes with it. So this is pure business. This is coming down to problem. This is solution. So this is where databases and languages come into play. And in the background, we have got what I call architecture. So this is my environment or development or quality space. So out of all these 4 spaces, the place where a business analyst works is the problem space, where information architecture is created. And the primary job of a business analyst is to understand the business needs and the business processes, and to run a workshop, bring various stakeholders, capture those requirements, then feed them back, review them, verify, validate, then interact with the system analyst, with the solution architect, with the developer, and then ask them or help them provide the solution. And this is also helpful when the system moves in maintenance, because throwing a few statistics around, the maintenance statistics is staggering. For every $1 that we spend in development, we spend $2 to $3 on maintenance for a system, especially if the system is successful, because the users have so many requirements that they want to change because the environment is changing. And this is a very, very popular slide. This is not mine at all. It has been around for 2 decades now, or even more. So the way I want to capture requirements is to communicate, is to talk, is to listen. Later in the AIBA framework, I'll show you, we've got 22 competencies. I've got only a couple of slides on my framework, because I'm really not carrying any particular interest in promoting a framework. I'm simply sharing with you business analysis and requirements modeling. But we do have a group of competencies which you and I learned in school. Write, speak, listen, translate. These are official competencies which a business analyst must have to become a good BA. Even if it is spoken in Indian accent, it's all right. But it should still be there. And in this slide, apart from the fact that I do consulting, the key thing that I want to share with you and highlight to you is the first picture and the last one. And if you see what the first and the last is saying, you will see where I am coming from. It is not that the customer is dishonest or playing games or trying to throw me off guard. It's not that at all. This is how the customer explained what the customer wants, but this is what the customer actually wanted. We talk about accounting, talk about medicine. I go and sit in front of a doctor and I explain that I have a tummy ache or headache or that's how I'm explaining. But the responsibility of the doctor is to understand that this is Bhuvan had too much of his spicy curry yesterday night, or he was playing around in the cold, or having too much of red wine, or whatever it is. So BA as a profession cannot stop at saying, hey Clinton, you told me this is what you wanted, but Clinton doesn't know that this is what he wanted. He was explaining it like that. I find the first and the last picture the most appealing in this particular slide, and that's why we need business analysis. Now there are again two keywords that we play around with, we as in my company or business analysts themselves. One is requirements modeling and the other is business analysis. And if we go on Seek or chat with Candle or someone, no difference. They use the two words interchangeably because the clients they serve use the two words interchangeably, but they are not. In fact, in AIBA we have got a certified assessor who is a full-on chartered accountant. Now he is not going to do that technical requirements modeling, but he is going to do business analysis. And business analysis is precisely what the word analysis says. One of my other friend, Mike, forget, okay, I won't come to me right now, but he gave a fantastic talk at Business Analyst World, and we are again both invited in June this year. But last June I listened to him, and he just threw a few hundred people back on their seats when he said, system analysis, statistical analysis, business analysis, psychoanalysis. They had something in common. And people thought, hang on, what's going on here? Psychoanalysis. But then when it is explained, it makes sense. The art of asking questions, the art of listening to what the other person is saying, breaking the answers down into understandable chunks, rephrasing them and putting that in front of a person, and again listening to what they are saying, and then listening to what they are not saying. We can do that with a super user in Ram's Home Loan or Bhuvan lying on a couch. Hasn't happened yet, but there is a possibility. The same art applies, right? So business analysis, in our view, is much wider than requirements modeling. And we haven't got time to go through all of business analysis, so we're going to focus on requirements modeling. And right at the start, I was, in the agenda, I was saying we will discuss different types of requirements. And this is where I'm taking you through the various types of requirements. So if we really say that we want excellence in requirements modeling, and we in fact I also present training courses and so on in requirements modeling. It takes 3 days. In fact, I might be also traveling in the first week of April to discuss and present full-on 3D business analysis with requirements modeling. Focus on requirements modeling. So I got my core functional behavioral requirement. I want my system to help me perform this business function, this functionality. Customer withdraws cash. It's a very, very common. It's like, I don't know if you have had even a small IT lesson somewhere, hello world, we are asked to code hello world in the first instance. And in requirements modeling, customer withdraws cash has somehow become the most popular functional requirement example. Because we all want to withdraw cash. We don't want to deposit cash. But if this is my functional requirement, there is a whole category of requirements that get clubbed with this and should not be clubbed with this and should have a separate focus. And that is called a non-functional requirement. In fact, the acronym NFR has become quite popular, NFR, non-functional requirement. They are also called operational because they are the requirements of our system when the system goes out in operation. So what's the example? For every functional, in this example, for every functional, like customer withdraws cash, I can say, I want the transaction in front of my ATM to be completed between 30 seconds and 1 minute, for example. Now that's a non-functional requirement because the process of withdrawing cash from an ATM, putting my card in, specifying $50, taking it out, entering the PIN, taking it out, it's the same. So I can actually code the best functionality, accurate, perfectly tallying. But hey, I got a queue of 300 people behind me because this one withdrawal is taking 5 minutes, not successful. And you can see a few things like that have happened. A few years back we had a customs glitch, and our lots of containers on the port, both airport and ship port not moving because the customs system, it was the actual system was functionally correct. And because I belong to ACS, in fact, there was an article written on it, IT copying flack for wrong reasons or something like that. The non-functional requirements, the security requirements, were not handled as well as we're supposed to. So for good requirements modeling, you focus on functionality, you focus on non-functionality, also interface. Go to combank.com.au and you will suddenly find yellow and black. Go to national or nab.com.au and you will find red and black or whatever they combo you. And you go to St. John and you will find a dragon there still around. They are neither functional nor non-functional. They are simply interface requirements. And that happens if I have to print a slip, the interface from my system to the printer is an interface. It needs separate focus. And occasionally infrastructure level requirements. They are not so much requirements as constraints, limitations. In Dow Jones, we can only use Oracle. So that's it. The decision is taken for you and me. So no matter how much the business and the best enterprise architect techie says we should go for SQL Server, you can't. Infrastructure requirement or constraint. So that's all about what is business analysis and what are the different categories of requirements. And now I'll show you a few examples. Now there's a guy called Ivar Jakobsen, J-A-B-S, Jack, spelled starting with a J, Jakobsen, Swedish guy, who is very well respected since 1990-91 when I had to first study what he had done, because I was doing my PhD with Brian Henderson Sellers at UTS, and he would take me around Melbourne, Sydney, go to conferences, introduce me to Eva Jacobson, who wrote a very thick book on object-oriented. His proprietary methodology was object-tree, and then he evolved that into the book form. And he said, and I like it, not everything he said I like, but I like this. When I start modeling the requirements, and I ask this in my class as well many times, I say, what's the first thing you want to start with? What's the first thing you want to model? You have to, then someone says, I want to create a flowchart. Customer withdraws cash. I want to create a flowchart. Someone else says, now I want to create a class diagram, key business domain entities, customer, account, ADM, transaction, date. So Jacobson, in a way, revolutionized requirements modeling, and that's why it's very, very popular. Because he said the first thing that a person should model, a business analyst, a requirements modeler, or an IT guy or girl, is the user, the stick man. Here I present the stick man. He's officially called the stick man. And then, people like Henderson Sellers, my friends, say, no, this is a stick person. We don't use gender in a specific language here. So this stick person is an actor patient. This is a hospital management system. And once I have created a notation and a representation of who the key user is, one key user, I start asking questions to the user. How are you going to use my system? What do you want from my system? And the patient says, I want to check the availability of doctor. I want to use your system. I'm a representative patient. I'm still alive. I can log in and I can say, okay, Sydney Adventist Hospital, San Hospital. I want to see Dr. Clinton Towers. Is he available? Yeah, you've got 3 slots available. And I can also say, I want one of them. Occasionally, I may have to check with the staff, or the staff may check with the doctor and update the availability. A series of interactions between the actor and the system is called a use case. A series of interaction between the actor and the system is called a use case. And all requirements, modern day functional requirements, are documented in use cases. And they can be a Word template. In fact, I have another book. I'm carrying a sample of that with me. I might show it to you. From where I have pulled these examples on functional modeling. So you can use a Word template. You can get an add-on to Visio, which is called a UML, Unified Modeling Language add-on. And you can create use case diagrams, and you can document use cases within that. Or if you are helping a company like a bank or an insurance company, then they will go for the enterprise level tools like Visual Paradigm or Enterprise Architect, or a few other tools like that, which help a team of requirements modelers / developers work on the same file. So this is my system boundary. These are my actors, and these are my use cases. And then I provide explanatory notes. All of this is available in case tools. In fact, Star UML is an open source case tool. So in case you don't even feel like spending $2, you can simply go to Star UML, download and play around with it. And I can give you all these references offline as well. And that's a pretty good tool to help a group of modelers work together and capture the requirements. And there are 13 different diagrams that Unified Modeling Language, UML, uses. It's a modeling language, not a programming language. And I wrote an article called Demystifying the UML. In fact, I wrote 2 of them, and I'm happy to share them with you. They were published in Information Age, 2002 and then 2005. Demystifying the UML and Demystifying the UML2. 13 diagrams, of which about 4 or 5 spot on in the problem space. You know, I showed you the spaces. Problem space, business analysis / requirements modeling work, use case diagram. And I mentioned that because within this bubble, if I am in a case tool, I right click on checks doctor availability, it will open up another list of diagrams, and I can attach a activity diagram, which is a flowchart, more or less. So the diagrams become fairly involved, and it's a collection of diagrams which feed into each other, making the overall requirements as accurate as one can do. So that's one advantage. Secondly, I mentioned, systems move in maintenance. We spend $2 or $3 in maintenance as compared to 1 in development, which is actually true of life as well. It costs much less to have a baby, much more to bring up a baby. I've got a high maintenance son. So when I have to trace back to what the original requirement was that my dear user is trying to change, I need to have a model, right? Otherwise I would end up with 300 pages of Excel where the first row is 1.1.1a and the last row is 3.7 point whatever b. I got rows upon rows upon rows of requirements. That's not a great way. Acceptable, but not great. I want pictures, I want visuals. I would prefer to put them in a case tool and share it around. That's another advantage, traceability. Third advantage, most of us are going to be involved in projects that are outsourced. Again, a very well-known article a while ago, the Indian elephant is picking up pace. That was an IT article. And if I look around all the banks that I consult to and airline and Telstra, I didn't say Telstra, I said telecom, a large telecom service provider in Australia. It's a fair amount of outsourcing happening there. Not necessarily all offshore. In fact, I can see the companies from Bangalore or Chennai also bringing in professionals here in Melbourne and Sydney. So if I have to get my software developed in Bangalore, I better specify it correctly, accurately. Because my payment terms, this will be of interest to you. My payment depends on accuracy and timeliness of the delivery. I can do it in that 300-page Excel spreadsheet, or I can do with pictures. If I'm doing with pictures, I've got a shared directory. Whatever functionality I update, the developer over there in Bangalore can see. Major advantage when it comes to projects which are made up of multiple teams, multiple parties. I mentioned to you in the previous diagram, use case, a bubble, an ellipse. This is how the ellipse expands. So each ellipse, each use case can have 1 or even 2 activity graphs. They are very professionally, they are called activity graphs or activity diagrams. They are flowcharts. Won't you agree? They are flowcharts. The variation, of course, is I've got a patient and I've got the overall system as 2 swim lanes. They were originally called swim lanes. UML is full of some funny names, stick man and swim lanes. So the stick man is swimming through the swim lanes. Now we have changed the terminology. The stick person undertakes these activities. So it's a slightly more embellished flowchart, which is saying this activity by this person, this activity by system. And I can have many more partitions, all done by the case tool for me. So of course I have to use my skills, but I'm not sitting there and drawing. And if I have the same system, and I only got those 2 examples. There are a few more. There are user stories which I will very, very shortly update you with. So those are the 2 use case diagrams and activity diagrams are the first ones that we would be drawing. I mentioned to you non-functional requirements. So those two are the functional ones. In terms of non-functional requirements, I've got examples here. But when I say non-functional requirements, I am talking about primarily about the limitation, the external parameters under which my system will be built. So in a way, they are constraints more than requirements. For example, my bank has got 100 Mbps limit, and my end user is demanding 3-second response time, and I'm the architect designer. I'm the business analyst working with the architect, and I'm saying we need to balance the two. If I go to 5-second response, the quality of my system will suffer. But I am given 100 megabyte, and with 100 megabytes, I cannot give 3 seconds. So the 4 well-known parameters of any project, which again all of you are more comfortable than I am: time, budget, quality, and scope. We just have a boxing exercise, boxing tournament between these 4, and then one of them wins. And therefore, in Agile, we allow the user, the super user, the key stakeholder, to pick one variable. You pick time, I'll pick the rest 3. You pick budget, I'll pick the rest 3. It's interesting, very interesting. So remember that non-functional requirements are generally categorized into 2, and these are names of those non-functional requirements. I can specify the performance, or I can say this is my limitation. I can talk about scalability in time. Today I have about 100,000 customers, but in 2 years' time I expect 1 million customers online, and in 5 years' time I could be going global and I might have 10 million customers. Have I planned for that growth in the system infrastructure? The levels of security I need, the quality of service, my system should never be down, or my system is allowed to be down between 12 midnight and 2 for maintenance. Whatever that is appears in a contract, in fact. It should work on IE 7 and above, and Safari on iPhone or whatever. These are not functional requirements. These are not behavioral. These are non-behavioral requirements. How much of volume, expected reliability, uptime, downtime. This is becoming interesting as well. Sustainability is the big word under which environment and carbon and everything else falls. So increasingly, you will find that IT systems have got a carbon calculation associated with them, because, and this will be a generic example, you will relate to it. Every time we do a Google search, consumes a certain amount of energy. And someone has done some calculation, some 10 or 12 searches, I don't know how many, but around that figure is equal to boiling a pot of water for my morning cup of tea or coffee. Now that means, it's correct, Google has got its main data center in Iceland. As the name suggests, it is full of ice around, so that the cooling energy is less. In fact, Google has got the only 7-star building in Australia on a Darling Point. Natural lights and air circulation and so on, and recycling of water. So suddenly we find, IT finds that with the legislations, even the amount of carbon that will be emitted or produced or energy consumed may become important. And I'm quite sure that within a very short time, maybe a couple of years, we might find invoices that contain not only the dollar amount, again this will give you a kick, positive one, but also the carbon amount. And if the computer you're buying, or the monitor you're buying, or the stereo that you have got in your home, has to be calculated not only in the dollar amount but also for its carbon content, you're talking about major non-functional requirements. And of course, legal. Now, this actually fits in both functional and non-functional. So I have covered what is a requirement into 4 categories. I have covered what is a functional requirement, what's a non-functional requirement. I haven't given too many examples of infrastructure or interface requirements, but they are a part of it. Now I'm simply introducing to you the word agile one more time. Ken Beck is an agile guru. He's a super programmer, and I heard him in Santa Barbara deliver his keynote address around year 2000, when he put up only about 3 or 4 slides from memory, and actual physical slides. 2000, PowerPoint was, we didn't have Office 2007 in year 2000, so he was using the slide, and he put this picture of Frederick Taylor, I think it was, or the work breakdown structure guru, and he said, this is how work happens in manufacturing and so on. And I already mentioned to you about the change in paradigm, and he said that the paradigm has to be conversational. You are the user, I am the developer, let's converse. And one of the key, very popular mechanisms of doing that conversation is writing user stories. And there is a book by Mike Cohen, a full book on writing good user stories. And there are heaps of books, by the way, hundreds of books on writing user stories, or how to write good stories. So these are very, very simple examples. My key business function is transaction. As a customer, I want to specify the details which are provided in this particular document so that I can withdraw cash. My role, how I will go about what I want with the end goal in my mind. And that has become a very popular format for writing functionality. So I can end up with 30 or 40 user stories on a big flip chart, and then I play around with them, and that's, a agile project progresses on a wall. And it's funny, on Exhibition Street when I was doing some work with Telstra, they were running out of walls. It's a new term. We're running out of walls because the whole project is visible through these stories. Then they are prioritized, and they are given red and yellow and green tags. Then they are moved from to do to being done to done, and then there is a 4th category called done, which I like the best. We also find that non-functional, which don't fall into this format, like response time for online sales quotation, are also written in these user story formats. They are called features. Now the last couple of slides, and then we'll have a few question and answers. We'll have a few questions, and answers are not necessarily guaranteed, but we'll be trying, honestly. This is all fine, you can say, okay, great, I agree. But what do I do next in my business? I'm running a bank, or I'm supporting a bank or airline, and how do I make the move, the change? And so here are some key indicators, not in great detail, on how an organization can fully adopt a framework that can help them do good requirements modeling, good business analysis, which is more than requirements modeling, and then move to development. And you might find, if the popular ERP solutions are configured in your organization, that coding is just not happening. You don't need coding. You simply need to change the parameters to reflect your business rules, and all of that is provided as functional and non-functional requirements. So what we have done is we have actually expanded on Elliot Jack's work. We haven't created the 4 quadrants, but I'll tell you what we have created. But this person was not dealing with IT. He was writing management-related material, how organizations learn and how they work and so on. And these are his quadrants. So requirements can be strategic at business level, which is where a bank is saying, I'm going to buy this other bank. Or the bank is saying, I'm going to buy insurance company, because banking and insurance seem to be going together. That has happened in our country quite a bit. That's a strategic, very high level requirement. But then requirements can be functional and technical. So what I presented to you in terms of use cases and activity graphs and user stories actually fits here. But as a business analyst, I could also be working here, right? Then it comes to design. I could be designing a business. I could be designing the operating model. That means the team structures and the HR and the reporting hierarchies and the salary scale or whatever, the design of the organization. And I could be doing class diagrams, and I could be doing sequence diagrams, and I could be coding in Java and testing it and mapping it to Oracle and so on. That's over here. And now our contribution, AIBA says, this is how a project should progress. Strategic, design, functional requirements, solution design. And our experience says, this is how projects progress. And so when they reach over there, the boss says, get out of here. I don't want this. Because this is not what I wanted in the first place. You never came and asked me. So these are the four mindsets, if you like, and what we have done. Okay. What we have also done. Let me just see if I have got that particular one. Yes, I have. So I'll go back to the other slide in a second. So what we have done, that this is AIBA's work, is we have said that we, as business analysts, professional business analysts, we need 22 competencies. I mean, they can increase or decrease. It's not 22 exactly is not a God-given number. But we have grouped them into four. That will reflect, the four quadrants I just showed you. So we have got creativity and innovation, including opportunistic thinking, identifying the opportunities, and lateral thinking and so on. Creativity. Then we've got design and redesign, which is the second quadrant in the previous slide. Then we have got analysis and improvement. So this is where my use cases and all the functional and non-functional requirements come in. And these are the literal competencies. So they don't deal with programming, but they are the basic competencies. And we are saying this is the way a business analyst, or these are the competencies that a business analyst can use and should use when they are doing BA work. And I've tried to map them to Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats, which you may have come across in the past, so I tried to give them some color. But that's a fairly interesting and a fairly involved exercise, so I won't talk too much on the 6 thinking hats. I like them, by the way. So now if we talk about the nitty-gritty of a person working as a business analyst, we have got these 9 fairly well-defined levels. So instead of saying I want a business analyst, I can actually say I want a business analyst who works at around level 3 on the AIBA scale. And to arrive at that level 3, we got a fairly involved exercise. I mentioned to you I was supposed to go to Department of Education to give a pre-assessment seminar. So we give a pre-assessment seminar, then people log in to our site, then they go through the 22 competency. Each competency has got 3 dimensions, skills and mindset and impact, and each dimension has got 3 or 4 or 5 questions, and they answer all that. They take a couple of hours, or they do in lots of half an hour and go back and have a cup of coffee. They do the whole self-assessment. We print a report, then we set up a 2-hour one-on-one chat, and we go through this competency and that competency, and this impact in functional modeling, or that mindset in numerical competence. We go through all of that and update the numbers, fine-tune the numbers, and produce another report and a nice gold or silver embossed certificate. That tells the person they are working at level 3 or level 2, whatever. And I've done more than 100 now of these assessments over the last year and a half. in many large organizations, and about 80% of BAs are between 1 and 3, which is fine. Because I told you, BA is still a growing profession, just started. So 5 years from now, we should have about 50 to 60% at that 1 to 3 level, and the rest have grown to level 4 and 5. And this is simply aspirational level 9. I'm not a level 9, nobody is level 9, but we are saying, hey, we can't reach the sun, but the sun is still there. So we should keep level 9. Unless the CEO of a bank comes and say, Bhuvan, can you please certify me at AIBA level? I'll say, ma'am, you have got level 9. Go away. I can't. And then you got all those 4 groups that I showed you as competencies here. So fairly interesting and fairly involved, and mutually learning experience that we have. And this is how an organization can transition. So we can have training and workshops and hand-on supports and so on. So this is a organizational transition model. So I'm reaching my conclusion slide, and I will simply summarize for you what I have shared for about 54 minutes. I'm a good timekeeper, aren't I? Just so that I can tell her, I'm a good man. Clinton introduced me as a great man. That was our agreement, wasn't it, Clinton? We talked yesterday what you're going to say. I highlighted the importance of requirements modeling, why it is important for communication purposes, for the reason that almost half the projects fail because of inaccurate or incomplete understanding of requirements. Then I also said that requirements modeling is not business analysis, but the term gets used interchangeably, which is fine. But business analysis is big, whereas requirements modeling is a part of it. I then divided requirements into 4 categories: functional, non-functional, interface, and infrastructure. Of which I took functional and I gave a couple of examples, a few examples. A use case diagram and an activity diagram. And I showed you user stories as a starting point, plug into the future of IT methods called Agile. And then, because I'm getting my bread and butter from AIBA, I also showed you my wonderful framework at AIBA. And that's what I had come to do. So thank you very much.
Would like to know if anyone has any questions for Bhuvan.
I'll throw out possibly an observation and something you might like to comment on, but I've recently been on the peripheral of a project which has used the Agile development methodology, and some of the observations where I thought it failed was drawn out of one of your slides where you said this is the normal scenario of the typical situation of what happens, and it seems to be that people are forgetting the non-typical situations, or what happens when there's a mistake and how do you fix it, whereas they're focused solely on this is a standard transaction and not the fact that the user made a mistake here and it went off into no man's land and then there was no way back. Are you seeing that as a missing, would you see that as a missing requirement, that the requirements should have actually have said that, this is the standard process, but then it's also, these are all the non-standard things and how you reverse it? Or is that fit somewhere else in the model, or is that something else within the Agile framework, or?
In case of the use cases that I showed you, or just showed you a picture of use cases, actor, patient, and actor staff. The documentation of the use cases is a fairly interesting format. You got the book here with you?
Yeah, of course.
I might just wave a book which has all the answers to the questions. Of course, it has been written by me, so it must have. But somewhere here is a example of a use case specification where I have got, and it's not the specs template is not designed by me, but I have developed it further, and it has got a main flow and alternate flow. And so the main flow is what we call the happy day scenario, and the alternate flow is where what you are talking comes into play.
I'm actually thinking mine's even more